Still, Dr. Zeus played around with the field and discovered what could at first be taken as a comforting fact. History cannot be changed. You can't go back and save Lincoln, but neither can you erase your own present by accidentally killing one of your ancestors. To repeat, history cannot be changed. However, and listen closely, this is the important part, this law can only be observed to apply to recorded history. See the implications? You can't loot the future, but you can loot the past. I'll spell it out for you. If history states that John Jones won $1 million in the lottery on a certain day in the past, you can't go back there and win the lottery instead. But you can make sure that John Jones is an agent of yours who will purchase the winning ticket on that day and dutifully invest the proceeds for you. From your vantage point in the future, you tell him which investments are sound and which financial institutions are stable. Result? The longest of long-term dividends for future you. And suppose you have John Jones purchase property with his lottery winnings and transfer title to a mysterious holding firm. Suppose you have an army of John Joneses all doing the same thing. If you started early enough and kept at it long enough, you could pretty much own the world. Dr. Zeus did. Overnight, they discovered assets they never knew they had, administered by long-lived law firms with ancient instructions to deliver interest accrued on a certain day in 2335 to a descendant of the original investor. And the money was nothing compared to the real estate. As long as they stayed within the frame of recorded history, they had the ability to prearrange things so that every event that ever happened fell out to the company's advantage. At about this point, the scientist members of the cabal protested that Dr. Zeus's focus seemed to have shifted to ruling the world. And hadn't the mission statement mentioned something about improving the lot of humanity, too? The merchant members of the cabal smiled pleasantly and pointed out that history, after all, cannot be changed, so there was a limit to how much humanity's lot could be improved without running up against that immutable law. But remember, gentle reader, that law can only be seen to apply to recorded history. The test case was the famous Library of Alexandria, burned with all its books by a truculent invader. Technically, the library couldn't be saved because history emphatically states that it was destroyed. However, Dr. Zeus sent a couple of clerks back to the library with a battery-powered copier disguised as a lap desk. Working nights over many years, they transferred every book in the place to film before the arsonist got to it and took it all back to 2335. Even though the books turned out to be mostly liberal art stuff like poetry and philosophy that nobody could understand anymore, the point was made. The paradox solved. What had been dead could be made to live again. What had been lost could be found. Over the next few months in 2335, previously unknown works of art by the great masters began turning up in strange places. Buried in lead caskets in cellars in Switzerland, hidden in vaults in the Vatican Library, concealed under hunting scenes by successful third-rate Victorian commercial painters, Da Vinci's and Rodin's and Van Gogh's all over the place, undocumented, uncatalogued, but genuine articles nonetheless. Take the case of the kale eaters, the unknown first version of Van Gogh's early potato eaters. It wasn't possible for the company to go drug Van Gogh in his studio, take the newly finished painting, and leap home with it. Nothing can be transported forward out of its own time. What they did was drug poor Vincent, take the kale eaters and seal it in a protective coat of great chemical complexity, paint it over in black, and present it to a furniture maker in Wyoming, old USA, who used it to back a chair that later found its way into a folk arts and crafts museum, and later still into other museums, until some zealous restorer x-rayed the chair and got the shock of his life. Needless to say, the chair was at that time in a collection owned by Dr. Zeus.